Welcome to Faithful Film Fanatic, where today I'm going to review the film Mad Max, which was actually released in 1979. This was the first movie I think that I've ever seen that's technically a foreign film, and for that, it was quite interesting to watch. The film was obviously made by amateurs, which is obvious by the audio errors throughout the film. Terrible audio quality. The way the music is fading in and out, a little too early, a little too late throughout the film, makes it seem like they weren't necessarily knowing what they were doing, which is all experimenting. I was able to look past all of this because even though to me and maybe the others out there it was annoying, this wasn't a film trying to be lazy, not wanting to do the work. This was a film that had such limitations because of its budget. This film's total budget was $350,000, which is very low budget. Take into consideration, for an example, Star Wars: A New Hope was still technically considered a low budget film, and even that film itself had an $11 million budget. I shared that with you to explain that this film has so many limitations. The problems with this film I had trouble looking past, however, was the dialogue, the chemistry between the actors, understanding the film, the characters in the film, and where is the titled character of this film? Everyone's different about what they want the most when they go see a movie. For me, I care more about the dialogue in the movie, number one, more than anything else. If the story is a piece of trash, but the dialogue is entertaining, then I am hooked. I still look at the movie worth watching because of that entertaining dialogue. There was not a single line of dialogue in this film that was just the least bit entertaining, or even beyond entertaining. The dialogue made no sense. Maybe I'm just a moron, but I watched this film from start to end twice already, and still, none of the dialogue makes a whole lot of sense to me. An example of this would be there's a scene with Mel Gibson, who plays Mad Max, and Joanne Samuel, who plays Jessie, who is Max's wife. They're holding each other on the porch. They are talking about something, and after the conversation, Max says, "Feels good, so good." Jessie responds with, "I got a right hook in the mouth this morning." Okay, what does that response have anything to do with, oh, this feels good? I mean, doesn't make any sense. And it's just like that throughout the entire film. From the very first second of this film to the end credits, the dialogue is very messy, not very clear of what they are talking about. I don't understand what they're talking about. I have no interest in what they're talking about. It's so boring. Written very badly. I love Mel Gibson and he is a terrific actor, but the casting of the actors in this film were done very terrible. Mel Gibson had no chemistry with his wife, Joanne Samuel, or any of the other actors in this film. You could feel the awkwardness between each character as they were talking, exchanging lines, and acting. I had no problem with the acting because you can only act certain well. What I had a problem with was the chemistry. I couldn't believe that Mel Gibson and Joanne Samuel were actually married. I couldn't believe that these bad guys were actually bad guys. I couldn't believe. I wasn't convinced. I couldn't even just temporarily convince myself to believe. None of the relationships with any of the characters I just couldn't buy. Because of that, the film was just a total pain to watch. No joke. Explain to you what the story of this film is probably the hardest part of this review. Toe Cutter is wanting vengeance for his death of the motorcycle leader, Knight Rider, and coming to a town to create nothing but chaos? Wanting to prove to the town that heroes don't exist no more? Maybe that's what the story's about? I really don't know. I couldn't understand this movie. The problem with the description that I just gave you is Toe Cutter sounded like he would be the main character, but he isn't. Max is. And majority of the violence in this film is implied due to budget costs. But with all that aside, I could not understand what the overall story of this story was. It felt like I was watching a backstory, telling a backstory, telling a backstory, telling a backstory. And I like backstories, but if all I'm watching is a backstory, then what's the actual story? Come on. A backstory is meant as an introduction, a whole entire movie serving as an introduction and nothing else, not giving anything new. I mean, that's just crap. I seriously had trouble understanding. I don't really know what to talk about the story because still, after watching it twice, I'm still obsessing to myself, what is the story? What is George Miller trying to tell me through these characters? And yes, Toe Cutter is the name of one of the characters, as well as Goose, Fifi, Mudgots, Ziggy, Silvertongue, Grease Rat, Rube, and Midge. I mean, seriously, I keep distracting myself. I'm just trying to visualize a meeting with the writer and director as they're talking about Toe Cutter and Goose and Phoebe. I mean, these are the most ridiculous names ever. I mean, who come up with these names? You thought these would be good names for a movie. This film has no character development. I would even go as far as to say that when the end credits rolled, I knew as much as the characters as I did in the first 5 minutes of the film. I never learned anything new about any of the characters. And that drove me crazy. Because of that, I was led just not liking the characters because I had no basis to like them. I knew nothing about them. So here I am watching a movie with characters that I just don't care about. Besides all that, they were so unrealistically stupid. I don't want to spoil anything, but numerous times throughout the film, the characters, all of them, do things that I don't even understand why anyone in this situation would ever do any of these things. Alright, one more thing I'd like to explain to you is the title of this film, Mad Max. So I thought after watching Mel Gibson portray Martin Riggs and seeing him being that crazy, and the title of this movie being called Mad Max, I was expecting an uncaged Mel Gibson. I was expecting him to go mad, him to go crazy, berserk, psycho. But that never happened in this film. There was no craziness. And so this movie's title was very misleading. I would even say that Max doesn't even get mad until maybe the last 5-10 minutes of the movie. But until then, he's just a character. He doesn't go berserk. He don't do nothing. The character in this movie that had the most amount of action and the one I liked the most was actually the grandma who kept shooting at the bad guys. Alright, I would like to challenge anyone who hasn't seen this film to go see it. Please message me at Terry Roy on Facebook and TikTok, Faithful Film Fanatic on Twitter, RedHunter_16 on Instagram, especially if you have any films you'd like me to review. I'm going to start uploading short films on my YouTube channel. The first of several films I'm going to make is just going to be